Soul 3, a realistic epic fantasy adventure for adults, by J.N. Wdowski. Note: for your full enjoyment, be sure to read or listen to the end, and continue to the next chapter. Chapter 40. Greendale introduced the Neethton prince from Treegor to the human elders. Standing on the small stage, used for wedding bands, he stepped back to let the prince address the gathering. The prince stood up upon the stage to look at all the curious human faces before him. Thanks to Dale, the prince gestured and smiled towards him. I sent a patrol to the Great Ruins, and we engaged an advanced demonoid scouting party in the Nuangle Woods. We captured one of their warriors. He sighed as his face soured. We have learned that Lucifera has bred and assembled at least 120 legions of demonoids and tormentors. The room groaned in fear and disbelief. "You are talking of over 200,000, shouted out one of the elders. The prince hesitated to continue, but knew he had to. She has divided her forces into two Grand Wymra. One has already been sent to lay siege to our capital to the far south. And the other? A different elder questioned. It is making its way towards Treegor. He took another moment to collect himself. My father, Rex Nyquos, is marching a force of 2,000 Neethton warriors to come to our aid. It's not enough, shouted an elder. No, it is not, confessed the prince. Yet with the threat to the capital, it is all he could spare. How many warriors do you have in Treegor? Questioned another elder. He momentarily closed his eyes, knowing the answer would not be received well by the humans. Opening his eyes, he spoke bluntly. I have 1,000 archers, 1,500 spearmen, and 500 light horses at my command. Against a demonoid Grand Wymra? Another cried out as the human elders continued to grumble. There is no standing up against such forces, a terrified voice yelled out. We should take Lucifera's offer, others screamed. Panic clutched their hearts as they gathered around Greendale for protection. They clamored that he needed to accept her offer. Greendale raised both his hands up to try to calm them. Enough! He scowled down at the lot of them. We will not idly sit by as she destroys the Neethtons. We must stop her. With what? Challenged an elder. Even with all the humans gathered here in East Riverton, we can field a force of a couple of thousand? We have the muskets, Chopson spoke up. How many will we have in a month? Asked a female elder. 100? How can 100 muskets make a difference against a force that large? A man standing next to her yelled at Chopson. And once they take the Neethton capital, that army will swing north against Treegor. We will be facing 200,000. This is insane. Take her offer. Yes! Take her offer! The majority of the frightened elders in unison screamed out. It is not our war, others added to their pleas. It will be, Dale shouted at them as he stepped up onto the stage with Greendale and the prince. The elders went silent and turned their attention to Dale. She will not destroy us. She gave us her word. One of the middle-aged women leaders responded. Her word? Dale scoffed at the idea. If she keeps her word, she may not wipe us out as she plans to do to the Neethtons. Knowing how evil and manipulative Lucifera is, his heart filled with disdain for the spinelessness of his elders. Knowing that his anger would not help sway them, he took a moment to calm himself before he continued. Instead, she will destroy our families. She will enslave our children and our grandchildren. Our sins will empower her as she feeds upon them. He took a moment to calmly look directly into many of their frightened faces. Our only hope is an alliance with the Neethtons. If we can help them, we will guarantee the safety of our descendants for generations. How? How can we help them? One of the other elders sincerely asked him. Greendale stepped forward. We and the Neethtons are not alone. Not alone? They questioned him. It was at that moment the double doors behind them swung open. Walking in was the pharaoh with 3 of his royal guards and an Anubis female. At first Dale thought it was Kia, but he soon realized it was not her, but a different female. Behind the Anubis followed an elder Quadtron with 2 male Quadtron hunters flanking him. "Yes, our human cousins, you are not alone," the leader of the Quadtrons replied. The room went silent as they all turned towards the alien visitors. 2 hours later, after a final debate and vote, the elders were finally convinced to support the Neethtons. Greendale had the banquet hall cleared of the elders. A large square table with chairs was set up in the center of the room. Dale sat beside Greendale on one side of the table. Behind them in additional chairs sat Chopson, Belson, Alchemity, East Riverton's finest chemist, and beside him was Master Roundfam the wheelwright. Across from them sat the Neethtton prince with Zoop. The prince's 2 personal guards stood behind them at the ready. Josh sat alongside his Quadtron elder on the edge of the table near the windows. The 2 Quadtron archers stood alert behind them. The Pharaoh sat across from the Quadtrons. His female Anubis interpreter sat beside him. His 3 other Anubis escorts stood behind him at his beck and command. Silently looking at each other, they all realized that, for the first time in history, their peoples sat together at one table, in one room. "We need more steel weapons and armor." The Anubis interpreter expressed the words of her pharaoh. "We are focused on the construction of the muskets. We have already given you all the spare steel weapons and armor we have." Greendale explained as the Anubis interpreter whispered into her pharaoh's ear. In a commanding voice, the pharaoh looked directly at Greendale. He spoke ancient Egyptian, as if Greendale would understand. She translated into English. "My lord says he is willing to field an additional 2,000 warriors, 1,000 archers, and 100 chariots to the cause, if they can be properly armed. Our armories and our blacksmiths can give you Neethtton steel, all you should need," the prince offered. "We ask only for your aid against the demonic hordes." "Agreed." The Anubis female translated the pharaoh's reply. Greendale turned his attention to the other side of the table where Josh sat with the spiritual leader of his people. "Before we continue, I think it is important to introduce Elder Methuselah, the patriarch of the Quadtrons." To formally greet the Quadtron elder, Greendale put his 2 hands flatly together, then slowly unfolded them open as if he was opening a book. "May your story be known." Pleased by Greendale's greeting, Methuselah made the same gesture with his hands to all at the table. In a thick, gravelly voice, he spoke in perfect English. "May all our stories merge as one." "Praise the great author," added Josh, who was echoed by the 2 Quadtron archers standing far behind them. Methuselah continued to inform the table. "Our hunters have tracked the movements of many demonoid legions marching towards the Neethtton capital and towards Trigor. Never has it been written for them to be so well organized, clad in steel plates, armed with steel weapons, and so numerous. Their red columns move like flows of lava through the forests, destroying everything in their path. Not just herbivores, but innocent trees and fellow carnivores they feed upon. They are constructing siege weapons from the trees they fell by the hundreds." The Anubis assistant continued to translate for the pharaoh all that was being said at the table. Understanding, the pharaoh addressed them in his mother tongue. Seeing that they could not understand him, he looked to his young female Anubis to interpret his words. "He wishes for you to know that after the devil maiden fouled his court, he had his high priests consult the oracle of Ra. The heart of the sacrificial lamb was infested with cancer. My lord says these are evil omens, predicting dangerous times." "That we are all in agreement," responded Greendale. "And if we do not stand and work together, these times will only worsen." Dale leaned into the table. He turned to Methuselah. "How many of your people can join the fight?" Methuselah stroked his long red beard with one of his hands as 2 of his other hands tapped on the table as he calculated the numbers. "This threat is to all of us. These demonic hordes are destroying the woodlands where my people hunt. They are falling the mightiest of the aged trees to build their siege weapons. The great author has written that all Quadtrons warriors will fight. Your people are rarely seen. You keep much to yourselves. How many are there of your kind? The prince asked, hoping for a large number, but not expecting much. In this region of the world it has been written that we have at least 1,000 hunters, the finest archers the great author has ever created. Methuselah proudly answered. Dale added in his head all the forces they could muster among the 4 races. 1 to 10 odds at best. If she does take the capital and turns that Grand Wymra against us, we are talking 1 against 20. We also have the 2,000 relief column from the capital heading for us, pointed out Zup. Not nearly enough to tip the balance in our favor. That is if Lucifera doesn't intercept them and wipe them out before they even reach us. It is what I would do. A knot began to form in his gut. He could not see any realistic way she could be defeated. We need something else to win this war. We do not have the numbers. Light. Chopson behind him spoke up. Light? Dale turned to him. Like at the Battle of the Sulphur Mines. They could not come out into the sunlight. Chopson explained. The sun limits them to only moving and fighting at night. Perhaps we can use that to our advantage. You are forgetting their mistress, Dale responded. Their mistress? Chopson was not catching on. Lucifera can black out the sun. She did so for her emissary and his escort. She did each time she appeared. She can create the conditions that can maintain their marches and maintain their siege. You need to take her out, as you did before. The female Anubis translated the pharaoh's words. The pharaoh pointed at the weapon on his back, Wozi's Kusi. With those, she translated. We need more ammo. Dale responded. He turned to Alchemity. Dale took out from one of his vest pockets a loaded magazine for the Warson assault rifle. He handed it to the chemist. You are making gunpowder. Can you make more of these? Alchemetes handed him back the magazine, and regretfully he replied, No. No? Why not? Dale did not understand. Patiently, Alchemity explained. The muskets use black powder. It is a simple process of mixing 3 elements together in the correct proportions. These weapons you carry, according to the book in the time capsule, need to use smokeless gunpowder. Black powder is too dirty when ignited. It will gum up the mechanisms of your weapons, jamming them and turning them into nothing more than clubs to fight with. They need the cleaner, burning, smokeless gunpowder to function properly. Then make smokeless, Chopson suggested. Not so easy. Smokeless is not just mixing chemicals together. It is a chemical process. Instead of just mixing the base ingredients, we need to chemically change the elements. This process changes it into a chemically modified compound. It is not just a blend like black gunpowder is. At this time, we do not have the skills to create smokeless gunpowder. Perhaps in a year, after trial and error, we can figure it out. Not in a month. Dale sat back disappointed. Then we have only one option. Please continue to Chapter 41. To support the author, please like, share, comment, and subscribe.